The scent of lavender and old paper still clung to Mom's study, a bittersweet reminder of her presence, even 2 months after she was gone. Clara ran a trembling hand over the ornate, antique frame of the oil portrait that dominated the room. It was a recent painting, commissioned just a year ago, capturing Mom's gentle smile and her eyes, always filled with a knowing warmth. For Clara, it wasn't just a painting. It was a window to her mother's soul, an anchor in the stormy seas of grief. She often found herself staring at it, almost expecting Mom to speak, to offer comfort, as she always had. Her brother, Leo, however, saw it differently. "Clara, you're still mooning over that thing?" he'd asked, his voice sharp with a practicality that often felt like impatience. "Drop that portrait. It means nothing. It's just paint on canvas. We need to clear out this house, decide what to sell, what to keep. This sentimental attachment is slowing us down." He gestured vaguely around the room, as if every object were merely inventory, stripped of its history and emotional weight. Clara felt a familiar pang of frustration. Leo had always been the pragmatist, the one who saw things in black and white, while she, like their mother, found meaning in the nuances, in the unspoken stories. But his words stung, reducing her cherished memories to an obstacle. She clutched the frame tighter, feeling a surge of protectiveness. "It means everything to me, Leo. It's Mom. It's how I remember her, how I feel close to her." He just sighed, rolling his eyes before turning to sort through a pile of tax documents, seemingly dismissing her feelings entirely. That night, as the silence of the empty house pressed in, Clara found herself back in the study, illuminated only by the pale moonlight. She looked at Mom's painted face, a silent question forming in her heart. "Are you really gone? Or are you still here, watching over me, even now?" A strange, almost imperceptible warmth spread from the portrait, a feeling she couldn't explain. She fell asleep in the armchair, the image of her mother's smile imprinted behind her eyelids, wondering if there was more to her brother's dismissive attitude than just pragmatism. If you've ever felt a connection so deep that it transcends life itself, or if a piece of art has ever spoken to your soul, share your story in the comments below. Your experiences inspire us all and remind us of the profound ways we connect with our loved ones. And if you're moved by Clara's journey, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories of faith, revelations, and the unbreakable bonds that guide us. The dream came slowly, like mist gathering on a lake. It wasn't a vivid, dramatic dream, but a quiet whisper, a gentle presence. Clara found herself back in her mother's garden, a place of vibrant colors and sweet scents that had always been her mother's sanctuary. Mom was there, tending to her roses, her back to Clara. Clara tried to call out, but no sound escaped her throat. She watched as her mother carefully pruned a wilting rose, then paused, turning her head slightly, as if listening to something only she could hear. There was no direct message, no clear instruction, just that familiar sense of peace that always enveloped her when her mother was near. Clara woke with a jolt, the lingering scent of roses in her mind, though none were in her bedroom. It wasn't a logical dream, nothing concrete to hold on to, yet it left her with an inexplicable feeling of comfort, a gentle reassurance that Mom was still, somehow, present. She dismissed it as a product of her grief, a yearning for her mother's comfort. But throughout the day, the image of Mom in the garden, listening intently, kept replaying in her mind. It wasn't the image of her vibrant, healthy mother, but a more ethereal, almost translucent version, as if she was just beyond the veil. Leo called later that morning, his voice abrupt. "Clara, I found Mom's will. It's pretty straightforward, everything divided equally. But there's a clause about the house. It's supposed to be sold within 6 months unless we both agree otherwise. I think we should just get it on the market. It's a big expense, keeping it up." His practicality once again clashed with her desire to cling to the last tangible piece of her mother. The dream, faint as it was, had momentarily eased her heartache, only for Leo's words to bring her crashing back to the harsh realities of probate and property sales. She felt a growing conflict not just with Leo, but within herself, torn between holding on to memories and facing the future without her mother. The pressure from Leo to sell the house mounted with each passing day. He argued about taxes, maintenance, the emotional burden of keeping a place so full of memories. "It's not healthy, Clara, holding on to every single thing. Mom wouldn't want us to be stuck in the past," he'd insisted, though Clara suspected his motivations might have been less about her well-being and more about his own financial aspirations or simply a desire for quick closure. Clara, however, found solace in the quiet solitude of the house, particularly in her mother's study, where the portrait continued its silent vigil. She would sit there for hours, just feeling her mother's presence, trying to decipher the lingering echoes of a life well lived. That night, the dream returned, this time more distinct. She was in the study, and her mother was standing beside the portrait, her eyes fixed on it. Mom didn't speak, but her gaze was intensely significant, almost urgent. Then she raised a hand, not pointing, but simply resting it against the lower right corner of the frame. A gesture of tenderness, almost a caress. Clara reached out to touch her mother, to ask what she meant. But just as her fingers brushed Mom's ethereal form, the scene dissolved, leaving her with a vivid impression of the portrait's frame and her mother's gentle touch. Waking up, Clara felt an immediate pull towards the study. The dream was unlike the others. It felt less like a memory and more like a directive. She walked straight to the portrait, her heart pounding with a strange mix of apprehension and excitement. Her eyes went directly to the lower right corner, where her mother's hand had rested in the dream. There was nothing obviously unusual, just the smooth, dark wood of the antique frame. Was it just a dream, a trick of her grieving mind? Or was her mother trying to tell her something, communicating in a way that transcended words and physical presence? The feeling of mystery intensified, urging her to look closer, to truly understand the silent message. Clara ran her fingers along the ornate carving of the frame, tracing the area her mother had touched in the dream. The wood felt solid, smooth, no apparent seams or buttons. Yet, the persistent image of her mother's gaze, fixed on that specific spot, fueled her curiosity. She examined it from different angles, even running her hand along the back of the frame, feeling for any irregularities. Nothing. Just an old, heavy wooden frame, beautifully crafted, but seemingly unremarkable. A wave of disappointment washed over her. Had she misread the dream? Was her grief simply creating meaning where there was none? She spent the entire morning in the study, her focus unwavering, much to Leo's annoyance when he called, demanding an update on her progress with clearing out the attic. Clara mumbled an excuse, her attention still solely on the portrait. She even tried gently tapping the frame, listening for a hollow sound, but it remained stubbornly inert. As the day wore on, a new thought sparked. What if it wasn't about the frame itself, but what was behind it? Perhaps something hidden between the portrait and the backing? Carefully, she lifted the heavy portrait from its hook on the wall. It was surprisingly heavy, much heavier than she remembered. She placed it gently on her mother's old writing desk and began to inspect the back. The canvas was secured by small, ancient metal clips. Her heart quickened as she noticed a faint discoloration on the backing paper, near the lower right corner, almost like an old water stain, but too regular to be accidental. It was subtly different from the rest of the aged paper, a slightly darker hue, almost as if something had once been pressed against it. Could this be it? Could this be what her mother was trying to show her? A clue hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by a daughter who remembered her touch? The faint discoloration on the backing paper was barely noticeable, but to Clara it pulsed with significance. It wasn't a tear or a crease. It was a subtle, almost deliberate mark. With trembling fingers, she carefully peeled back the aged brown paper from the lower right corner of the portrait's frame. It came away with a soft, crackling sound, revealing the raw wood beneath. Still nothing. Her hopes began to deflate again. Perhaps her mother's dream message was more symbolic, less literal. She was about to give up when her fingertips brushed against something firm, lodged between the backing board and the wooden frame itself. It was a small, flat object, wrapped tightly in a piece of faded silk ribbon, the kind her mother used to tie around her hair. Her breath hitched. This was no coincidence. With renewed excitement, Clara gently pried the object free. It was a miniature wooden box, no bigger than her palm, intricately carved with a delicate floral pattern. It felt warm to the touch, as if it had absorbed her mother's essence over the years. This was it. This had to be the secret her mother had been trying to reveal. The box had no obvious latch or opening mechanism. She turned it over and over in her hands, her mind racing. How could she open it without damaging its delicate craftsmanship? It was a puzzle, a final, intimate message from her mother. As she held it, the weight of her grief seemed to lessen, replaced by an invigorating sense of purpose. This wasn't just about a hidden object. It was about a conversation across realms, a confirmation that her connection with her mother was far from severed. She knew, deep in her heart, that opening this box would reveal not just a secret, but a piece of her mother's untold story, a truth that had been waiting patiently for the right moment and the right person to discover it. Clara's mind raced, scrutinizing every inch of the tiny wooden box. It was exquisite, a testament to her mother's taste for beautiful, meaningful objects. The floral carvings seemed to intertwine, forming an almost labyrinthine pattern. She tried to slide the lid, to pry it gently, but it remained stubbornly sealed. It was clear that brute force would only destroy its delicate beauty, and she couldn't bear to harm something her mother had so carefully concealed. The mystery deepened, transforming from a simple discovery into an intricate challenge. What kind of secret required such an elaborate container and a message so subtly delivered? She remembered her mother's love for puzzles, for riddles and brain teasers. Mom always said that true understanding often lay hidden beneath layers of thought and careful observation. Was this another one of her mother's intricate games? A final lesson from beyond the grave? Clara recalled a specific memory. Her mother demonstrating how to open an antique jewelry box that had a hidden mechanism, a secret spring activated by pressing two specific points simultaneously. Could this box operate on a similar principle? Her fingers glided over the smooth, polished wood, searching for any subtle unevenness, any slight indentation that might serve as a trigger. She pressed gently on various points along the carved flowers, feeling for a give, a click. Nothing. The box remained a silent, beautiful enigma. The light from the window began to fade, casting long shadows across the study, but Clara remained undeterred. She felt a profound connection to this object, a sense that it held not just a material secret, but a spiritual revelation. This wasn't just about the box. It was about deciphering her mother's final, silent communication, proving to herself and perhaps to Leo that some connections transcend the tangible world. Hours passed as Clara meticulously examined the box. Her frustration began to mount, but then she remembered another of her mother's sayings. Sometimes the answer isn't in what you see, but in what you feel. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath, and let her fingers roam over the carvings, focusing not on sight, but on touch. She felt for subtle shifts in texture, for slight changes in temperature, for anything that didn't quite belong. Her mother had an uncanny knack for hiding things in plain sight, often relying on intuition rather than obvious clues. Then, her thumb brushed against a particular rose petal carved into the lid. It felt fractionally warmer than the surrounding wood, and as she applied the slightest pressure, she felt a minuscule, almost imperceptible give. Her heart leaped. This was it. She pressed gently again, and with a soft, almost inaudible click, a tiny seam appeared along the side of the box. A small, hidden drawer slid open, revealing its contents. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, was a single yellowed photograph and a folded piece of paper. The photograph was old, clearly from decades ago. It depicted a young woman, strikingly beautiful and bearing an uncanny resemblance to her mother, but with a wistful expression Clara had never seen on her mother's face. The woman was holding a baby, wrapped snugly in a blanket. Clara's gaze fixed on the baby's face, a rush of inexplicable emotion washing over her. It wasn't her or Leo. Who was this child? And why was her mother in the photo looking so sad? The questions swirled, deepening the mystery even further. This wasn't just a simple secret. This was a revelation, a window into a past her mother had carefully guarded, now unveiled by a touch and a dream. Clara's hand trembled as she picked up the photograph. The young woman in the picture, undeniably her mother, looked so different. Her eyes, usually sparkling with life, held a depth of sorrow that Clara had never witnessed. The baby in her arms was tiny, innocent, a silent testament to a life Clara knew nothing about. Who was this child? Was it a relative? A friend's child? But the way her mother held it, with such tenderness, such protectiveness, suggested a profound connection. And the sadness in her eyes, it was heartbreaking. This image painted a completely new portrait of her mother, one far more complex and shadowed than she had ever known. Next, she unfolded the yellowed piece of paper. It was a letter, written in her mother's elegant, looping handwriting, but clearly from many years ago. The ink was faded, some words blurred by time or perhaps tears. Clara took a deep breath, her heart pounding against her ribs. This was it, the true message, the full revelation. The letter began, "My dearest Clara, if you are reading this, then you have found what I intended for you to find. There is a truth I carried for many years, a truth I now entrust to you, my brave daughter." Clara's eyes welled up. Her mother knew. She knew Clara would be the one to find it, to understand. The first paragraph spoke of an agonizing choice, a young love, and circumstances that forced her mother to make an impossible decision. It hinted at a child, a son, given up for adoption in a time when options were few and judgment was harsh. A son. Clara had a brother she never knew. Her world tilted on its axis. This wasn't just a secret. It was a lost history, a hidden branch on their family tree. The letter continued, detailing how her mother had never forgotten him, how she had carried his memory in her heart, a secret burden she couldn't share with anyone until now, and that the portrait itself held the key to finding him. The revelation of a hidden brother, a child her mother had given up, sent a shockwave through Clara. The sorrow in her mother's eyes in the photograph now made agonizing sense. The letter unfolded a narrative of youthful love, societal pressure, and a heartbreaking sacrifice. Her mother, a single young woman in an era less forgiving, had made the impossible choice to give her son a chance at a better life, believing it was the only way. Yet, she had never forgotten him. The letter meticulously detailed the circumstances, a date, a small town, and the name of the adoption agency, along with a locket containing a tiny inscription, a locket she had given the baby before the parting. "I kept this portrait," her mother had written, "not just as a memory of myself, but as a silent prayer, a hope that one day the truth would find its way to him, through you." The letter explained that the portrait was a symbolic connection, painted at a time when her mother had made peace with her past, a silent ode to the son she never raised, a silent beacon of hope. The inscription on the locket, Mom explained, was the key to finding him. It was a partial name, a single word, that only someone who knew his story would understand. Clara felt a profound surge of emotion, immense sorrow for her mother's silent suffering, and an overwhelming sense of purpose. Her mother hadn't just revealed a secret, she had entrusted Clara with a mission. The letter ended with a plea for understanding and a heartfelt declaration of love, not just for Clara and Leo, but for the son she never knew. It also contained a subtle yet firm message about Leo. "Your brother," the letter read, "is a good man, but he often sees only what is directly in front of him. He struggled with a loss he couldn't vocalize, and sometimes his dismissiveness is a shield. He would not understand this, Clara, not in the way you do. Keep this truth safe, for now, until you know how best to reveal it, if at all. This secret is for you to carry, and for you to decide its future." The implication was clear. Leo's dismissiveness towards the portrait, his insistence that it meant nothing, now felt chillingly ironic, an unwitting reflection of a much deeper, unacknowledged truth. The weight of her mother's secret settled heavily on Clara's shoulders. A lost brother, a hidden life. It was a truth so profound, so utterly unexpected, that it felt surreal. She reread the letter countless times, absorbing every nuance, every carefully chosen word. Her mother's pain, her strength, her enduring love, it all resonated deeply within Clara. The meaningless portrait, as Leo had called it, was now the very vessel of a crucial family history, a silent guardian of a life unlived within their direct sight. It was a tangible link between her mother's past and Clara's present, a bridge to a future she now had the power to shape. Her initial shock began to give way to a determined resolve. Her mother had entrusted her with this, had guided her through a dream and a hidden clue. This wasn't just a revelation, it was a divine assignment. She felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for her mother's foresight, for the strength to share such a painful part of her life, and for the wisdom to know that Clara would be the one to uncover it. The mystery had transformed into a sacred quest. The next challenge, as highlighted in the letter, was how to approach Leo. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. He often sees only what is directly in front of him. His dismissiveness is a shield. Clara knew Leo's practical, sometimes rigid mindset. Revealing such a complex and emotionally charged secret, especially one that might challenge his perception of their mother, would not be easy. She envisioned his skepticism, his potential anger at having been kept in the dark, or worse, his outright disbelief, echoing his earlier pronouncements about the portrait. But the locket, with its mysterious inscription, was a tangible lead, a piece of concrete evidence to guide her search. The search for her lost brother, however, would be a journey Clara had to undertake alone, at least for now, until she understood the full scope of this profound new reality. Clara knew she couldn't rush this. Finding her lost brother would require careful planning and discretion, especially given Leo's pragmatic nature. The letter had mentioned a locket given to the baby with an inscription that was a partial name. Her immediate task was to try and understand this crucial clue. She began by researching adoption agencies from her mother's era in the small town mentioned in the letter. It was a daunting task, wading through old records and legal complexities, but the fire of purpose burned brightly within her. Her mother's message had given her a profound sense of direction. The dreams, too, continued to subtly guide her. One night, Clara dreamt she was walking through a vast library searching for a specific book. Her mother appeared, not speaking, but gently touching a particular shelf, then tracing a letter in the air. The letter J. Clara woke with the letter J vivid in her mind. Was this connected to the inscription? A first initial? It felt like another gentle nudge, a whisper from beyond. She started focusing her search, looking for names beginning with J within the adoption records she could access, or even cross-referencing with other local historical archives. Her days were now a blend of quiet research and maintaining a facade of normalcy for Leo. He was still pushing to sell the house, exasperated by her perceived procrastination. "Clara, we can't keep putting this off. The market is good now. We need to decide on a realtor by next week." Each time he spoke, his words, "Drop that portrait, it means nothing," echoed in her mind, a stark contrast to the profound meaning it now held. The secret had become a heavy cloak, shielding a delicate, unfolding truth from his impatient gaze. She needed more time, more clues, before she could even consider revealing such a life-altering truth to him. The search for Jay had begun, a quiet, determined quest guided by a mother's love and a daughter's unwavering faith. The letter J became Clara's silent mantra. She expanded her research to include newspaper archives from the specified town and time period, looking for birth announcements or any public records that might align. The lingering scent of my mother's favorite lavender filled my bedroom, a phantom presence that often accompanied her visits in my sleep. This time, it was different. It wasn't just a comforting memory. It was a potent reminder, a sign that the dream was more than just my subconscious, grappling with my brother's dismissive words. That night, her face, etched with a quiet urgency, had pointed directly to the portrait, then to my brother, and then back to the portrait again, her eyes conveying a sorrow I couldn't yet decipher, but felt deep in my bones. It was a silent conversation, a profound revelation spoken without a single sound, yet louder than any argument we'd ever had. My brother, Mark, usually a beacon of pragmatism, had always been quick to sweep away anything that didn't fit into his neat, logical world. The portrait, a faded oil painting of a young woman I didn't recognize, had been a fixture in our childhood home, always hanging in the sunroom, absorbing the gentle morning light. Mom had treasured it, even though she never spoke much about it. After she passed, Mark had always wanted to modernize the house, which often meant discarding relics of the past. His blunt, "Drop that portrait, it means nothing," had cut deep. Not just because it dismissed Mom's unspoken affection for it, but because it felt like a dismissal of her memory itself. But the dream had changed everything. It had injected a new, unsettling narrative into the familiar rhythm of my life. My mother, in that ethereal space between waking and sleeping, had presented an unspoken challenge, a puzzle that only I seemed privy to. The weight of her gaze, the silent indictment, suggested that Mark's casual dismissal was not just ignorance, but perhaps a convenient truth he chose to believe, or perhaps a truth he had been led to believe. The thought sent a shiver down my spine. What could be so significant about an old painting that it would warrant a divine intervention, a message from the beyond? This was no longer just about sentimentality. It was about truth, a truth my mother desperately wanted me to uncover. The more I dwelled on it, the more I realized I couldn't ignore it. I had to look closer, peel back the layers of dust and time to understand the silent plea in her dream eyes. This wasn't just for me, or for her. It felt like a deeper justice was at stake. The morning after the dream, the sunroom felt different. The light filtering through the lace curtains seemed to highlight the dust motes dancing in the air, but also, inexplicably, lent a newfound intensity to the portrait. It hung there, unassuming, yet now burdened with the weight of my mother's spectral message. I approached it slowly, my heart thrumming a nervous rhythm. It was a simple, almost naive depiction of a young woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile, holding a single, wilting rose. I'd always assumed it was an old family heirloom, perhaps a distant relative, but Mom had never confirmed it. The lack of information, once a simple oversight, now felt like a deliberate omission, a sealed secret waiting for me to break it open. I ran my fingers over the aged canvas, feeling the slight ridges of the oil paint, the texture of a past that was suddenly demanding my attention. Mark had always considered it clutter, an archaic piece taking up valuable wall space. He was all about minimalism, clean lines, and forward thinking. My mother, however, had cherished every crack and faded hue on that canvas. It had always been on her side of the room, near her favorite armchair, where she would often sit, gazing at it in quiet contemplation, a soft, wistful smile gracing her lips. I remembered those moments now with a sharper clarity, a poignant understanding dawning on me. Those weren't just moments of idle reflection, they were silent communions, private conversations with a past only she truly understood. The frame was a simple dark wood, heavy and unadorned. I carefully lifted the portrait from its hook, the small chains creaking softly under the weight of the years. On the back, covered by an old yellowed paper backing, I hoped to find some clue, a signature, a date, anything that could shed light on its origins. My fingers fumbled with the brittle paper, carefully peeling it back, revealing the aged wood beneath. Nothing immediately stood out. No name, no date. Just the faint, earthy smell of old wood and paint, a scent that now felt charged with anticipation. This search was no longer a casual inquiry. It was a mission, divinely appointed by a mother reaching across the veil, urging me to see what was hidden in plain sight. My next step felt clear. I needed to delve deeper into the physical object itself, every fiber, every brushstroke, every unseen corner. As I meticulously examined the back of the portrait, my fingers tracing the grain of the wood, I noticed a faint discoloration near the bottom right corner. It wasn't a stain, but rather a subtle difference in the wood's patina, as if something had once been affixed there, then removed. My heart quickened. Could this be it? A hidden compartment? A message? I carefully pressed around the area, feeling for any give, any slight unevenness. There was a barely perceptible seam, almost invisible to the naked eye, a testament to its age and the skillful craftsmanship of whoever had framed it. This was no ordinary frame. It felt like it had been designed to conceal. With a small antique letter opener I kept on my desk, I gently pried along the faint line. The wood creaked softly, releasing a puff of fine dust. Slowly, a thin panel, no bigger than a playing card, detached from the back of the frame, revealing a shallow recess. Inside, nestled snugly and protected by a thin piece of velvet, was a single folded piece of parchment, yellowed with time, and a small, tarnished silver locket. My breath caught in my throat. This was it. This was the secret. My hands trembled as I carefully extracted the treasures, their weight suddenly feeling monumental. This was more than just an old painting. It was a time capsule, a whisper from a forgotten past, a direct answer to my mother's spectral plea. The locket was cold in my palm, its intricate floral engravings dulled by time. I fumbled with the clasp, my fingers clumsy with anticipation, and it sprang open with a soft click. Inside, on one side, was a tiny, faded photograph of a young woman, strikingly similar to the one in the portrait, but with a different light in her eyes, a youthful innocence, a vibrant spark. On the other side, a lock of hair, a delicate strand of auburn, carefully preserved. My mother had always had auburn hair. Could this be her? But the woman in the portrait seemed older, more mature, and certainly not the mother I knew from my childhood photos. The mystery only deepened, weaving a more intricate tapestry of questions. My eyes then turned to the parchment, its fragile edges hinting at stories untold, at truths waiting to be unveiled. With the locket still clutched in my hand, its secrets whispering through time, I turned my full attention to the parchment. Its edges were fragile, crumbling slightly as I unfolded it with the utmost care. The paper crackled softly, a sound like dry leaves, echoing the passage of years. The script was elegant, flowing, but faded in places, making it difficult to decipher at first glance. It was a letter, dated decades ago, addressed to my dearest Eleanor. Eleanor, that was my mother's name. A surge of emotion washed over me. This was undeniably connected to her, a direct link, but the content remained a tantalizing enigma. I carefully smoothed the parchment on my desk, positioning it under the strongest light. The ink, a deep sepia, spoke of a bygone era. As I began to read, a story started to unfold, a narrative of love, loss, and difficult choices. The letter was from a man, deeply apologetic, expressing his profound regret for a situation beyond his control. He spoke of a forced separation and the unjust circumstances that prevented him from being with Eleanor and their precious daughter, Clara. Clara. The name echoed in the silence of my room, a new name, an unknown branch on our family tree. The letter continued, explaining that the portrait was a gift, a final remembrance of his love for Eleanor and their child. He wrote that he had painted the woman in the portrait, a woman he referred to as Clara's mother, just before their forced parting, capturing her strength and grace in a moment of profound sorrow. He hoped Eleanor would keep it, a silent testament to their bond, and that one day Clara would understand the truth behind their family's fractured history. He signed it simply, "Your devoted Thomas." My world tilted. Clara, my mother, Eleanor, had a daughter named Clara and a husband named Thomas. This was a seismic revelation. All my life, I had known only my father, Robert, and our seemingly straightforward family history. The woman in the portrait, then, wasn't just some distant relative. She was Clara, my mother's first daughter, my half-sister. And the man who painted it, Thomas, was her first husband, a man whose existence had been erased from our family narrative. The dream, my mother's silent plea, suddenly gained a breathtaking clarity. The lie wasn't about the portrait's monetary value. It was about the truth of our lineage, a secret carefully guarded, a life unacknowledged. The pieces were beginning to fall into place, but the implications of this revelation were still vast and unsettling, particularly for my brother Mark, who held firm to the family story he had always known. The discovery of Clara and Thomas shattered the foundations of my understanding of our family history. My parents, Eleanor and Robert, had always presented a picture of enduring love, a singular, unbroken narrative. To learn that my mother had a previous marriage, a child I never knew, was like discovering an entire hidden wing in a house I thought I knew intimately. The woman in the portrait, now identified as Clara, stared out at me with new eyes, her gentle smile carrying the weight of a secret kept for decades. She wasn't an unknown ancestor. She was my half-sister, living a life somewhere, perhaps oblivious to the revelation unfolding in my quiet sunroom. My mother's silence about this chapter of her life suddenly felt less like an omission and more like a protective shield. Was it shame, fear, or a profound desire to protect her new family from a painful past? I could only guess at the reasons that led her to bury this truth so deeply. The letter offered a glimpse into Thomas's heartbreak, but what about Eleanor's? What agony must she have endured, forced to part from her husband and first child? The romanticized notion of a simple family portrait dissolved, replaced by a complex tapestry of human suffering and resilient love. The dream replayed in my mind, my mother pointing at the portrait, then at Mark, then back to the portrait. It wasn't just about Mark dismissing the painting. It was about him unknowingly dismissing a significant part of her life, a part that held the key to another daughter. His assertion that it meant nothing now felt like a cruel irony, a statement born of ignorance but resonating with the very act of erasure. The weight of this secret settled heavily on my shoulders. How could I confront Mark with this? How could I introduce a half-sister into his perfectly ordered world? He, who valued logic and reason above all else, would undoubtedly struggle with such a profound disruption to his reality. I needed to find out more about Clara. The letter was a beginning, but it left so many questions unanswered. Where was she now? What happened after Thomas wrote that letter? Did my mother ever reunite with her? The locket, with its tiny, faded photo, felt like a direct link to this lost past, a fragile thread connecting me to a sister I never knew. I had to follow this thread, not just for my mother's sake, but for Clara's, and for the full, honest truth of our family. The next step was clear. I had to begin my own research, meticulously sifting through archives, old records, anything that could illuminate the path of Clara and Thomas, and ultimately reveal the complete story my mother had entrusted to me. The task before me felt monumental. Where does one even begin to search for a half-sister, lost to decades of silence and a meticulously guarded family secret? My first thought was to search through old family documents, anything my mother might have inadvertently left behind that related to her life before marrying my father, Robert. I spent days sifting through dusty boxes in the attic, uncovering old photo albums, letters, and even some of her journals. It was a journey through her past, piece by painful piece, but not without its own profound rewards. Among the carefully preserved mementos, tucked away beneath faded photographs of my mother's youth, I found a small, leather-bound diary. It was smaller than her usual journals, almost like a private confessional. The first few pages were filled with typical teenage musings, but then, abruptly, the entries changed. The handwriting became more hurried, the tone more somber. She wrote about a whirlwind romance with a talented young artist named Thomas, the joy of falling in love, and then the devastating news of an unexpected pregnancy. Her family, deeply conservative, was horrified. The entries detailed their secret marriage, their brief idyllic life together, and then the encroaching shadows of war. Thomas, a conscientious objector, was forced to leave the country to avoid conscription, a decision that tore their young family apart. He promised to return for Eleanor and their newborn daughter, Clara, but their separation became permanent. Eleanor wrote of the heartbreak of being a single mother, ostracized by her family, and the impossible choice she faced: give Clara up for adoption to a wealthy, loving family who could offer her a stable life, or struggle alone, jeopardizing Clara's future. The agonizing decision, the unbearable pain of saying goodbye to her firstborn, was palpable in every line. She kept Clara's photo, a lock of her hair, and the portrait Thomas painted as her only solace, hidden away, a wound that never truly healed. Reading her words, my eyes blurred with tears. The complexity of her choice, the depth of her sacrifice, humbled me. She hadn't forgotten Clara. She had protected her in the only way she knew how. This wasn't a lie of malice, but a lie born of profound love and an agonizing sacrifice. The portrait, with Clara's youthful face, now represented not just loss, but a mother's enduring love, a testament to an impossible choice. Now, armed with the truth, I understood the full weight of my mother's dream and the urgency of her message. The biggest challenge now was how to share this with Mark. how to help him understand a truth that defied his perception of their mother and their shared history. His dismissal of the portrait now felt like an unwitting betrayal of her deepest pain. The diary entries provided the missing puzzle pieces, painting a vivid, heart-wrenching picture of my mother's early life. It explained everything: the hidden locket, the letter from Thomas, and the true identity of the woman in the portrait. Clara was not just a name. She was a vibrant, living memory, a ghost of a past that shaped my mother into the woman I knew. The adoption had been arranged discreetly, a closed adoption, which explained why finding any records of Clara would be exceptionally difficult. My mother had carried this secret for decades, a silent burden of love and sacrifice. Armed with this profound truth, I felt a new kind of resolve. My mother's dream wasn't just about revealing a hidden fact. It was about honoring Clara, acknowledging her existence, and perhaps, in some way, finding her. The emotional weight of this discovery was immense, but so was the sense of purpose it ignited within me. I envisioned telling Mark, not just to shock him, but to help him understand the incredible strength and complexity of our mother, to finally see the full spectrum of her life, beyond the comfortable narrative we had always known. It wouldn't be easy, I knew that. Mark valued order and stability, and this revelation would undoubtedly challenge his deeply ingrained perceptions. Yet, I couldn't keep this truth to myself. It was too important, too integral to understanding our mother's journey, and indeed, our own. The story of Clara wasn't just my mother's. It was now part of our family's legacy, a testament to resilience and the profound, often painful choices parents make for their children. It was a story that deserved to be told, to be integrated into the fabric of who we are. It was a testament to the belief that love, in all its forms, finds a way to endure, even across time and secrecy. Before I faced Mark, I felt compelled to gather all the evidence, the letter, the locket, the diary, and arrange them. It needed to be presented not as an accusation, but as a journey of discovery, a testament to our mother's profound human experience. The conversation would be difficult, emotional, and perhaps even confrontational, but it was a necessary step towards an honest and complete understanding of our family's history. The chilling words echoed in my mind even after I'd forced myself awake. "Drop that portrait. It means nothing." My brother, Mark, had said it with such finality, such an air of dismissal just yesterday. But last night, in the vivid theater of my sleep, Mom had appeared. Not as a ghost, but as she was in her prime, vibrant and full of an unspoken knowing. She hadn't spoken a single word, yet her presence filled the room, a warm, comforting aura that quickly turned into a subtle urgency. She stood beside the very portrait Mark wanted to discard, her gaze fixed upon it. Then slowly, deliberately, she looked at me, her eyes conveying a message so profound, so utterly clear, it pierced through the veil of sleep and settled deep into my consciousness. It was a silent plea, a quiet affirmation that what Mark claimed was a lie. The air in my bedroom was still cool with the night's lingering chill, but a different kind of shiver ran through me, a mix of awe and trepidation. My mother, gone for years, had just spoken to me in a way more powerful than any voice. She had pointed me back to the portrait, a seemingly insignificant object that Mark wanted erased from our lives. How could a dream be so real, so insistent? It wasn't just a random flicker of my subconscious. It felt like a direct transmission, a message encoded in pure emotion and silent intent. The details of the dream solidified in my memory with an alarming clarity as the morning light began to filter through my curtains. Mom's face, etched with a gentle sadness, her hand not quite pointing, but almost caressing the lower right corner of the portrait frame. It wasn't a grand gesture, nothing dramatic, but a soft, almost imperceptible movement that, in the context of the dream, screamed importance. Her eyes, usually sparkling with life, held a deep, knowing sorrow when she looked at me, a silent plea that seemed to say, "Don't let them forget." Forget what? That was the mystery. Mark's words about the portrait suddenly took on a sinister edge. His insistence on getting rid of it, his almost aggressive dismissal of its sentimental value, now felt less like practicality and more like a deliberate attempt to cover something up. I lay there, processing the revelation, feeling the weight of the dream press down on me. It wasn't just a memory of my mother, it was a directive. A deep conviction settled in my heart. This wasn't just a dream, it was a message, a divine intervention guiding me. How many times had Mom told me that God speaks in whispers, in feelings, in coincidences that aren't really coincidences at all? This felt like one of those moments, amplified by the unbreakable bond we shared. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a figment of my imagination. My mother had always believed in signs, in the subtle nudges of the universe, and in the profound wisdom found in quiet moments of reflection. She often said, "Listen not just with your ears, but with your heart." Sometimes, the most important messages are delivered in silence. This dream felt like the epitome of that philosophy. It wasn't loud or dramatic, but intensely personal and undeniably real. The sheer vividness, the emotional resonance, the way it had pierced through my sleep and lingered into my waking hours, all pointed to something significant. I knew, with an unshakable certainty, that I couldn't ignore it. To do so would be to betray not just my mother's memory, but also the deep intuitive connection I felt she was trying to rekindle. Mark's casual disregard for the portrait, claiming it was just an old painting taking up space, now felt like a veil. He was so quick to dismiss it, almost as if he feared what might be found if someone truly looked. My mother's silent plea in the dream was a clear counter-narrative to his insistence. With newfound resolve, I got out of bed and made my way to the living room, drawn by an invisible thread to the very object of my dream. The portrait hung on the wall, an oil painting of my grandmother from her younger years, a stern yet kind face gazing out from the canvas. It was a beautiful piece, if a little formal, and had always been a fixture in our family home. But today, I saw it differently. It wasn't just a piece of art, it was a key. My mother's subtle gesture, the faint touch on its lower right corner, became my focal point. I stood before it, examining every inch, not for artistic merit, but for anomalies. The frame itself was ornate, dark wood with intricate carvings, heavy and solid. I ran my fingers along its edges, feeling for any loose parts, any seams that didn't quite meet, any hidden compartments. My heart pounded with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. What if this was all in my head? What if the dream was just a dream? But then, Mom's face would flash in my mind, her sorrowful, knowing eyes, and the doubt would recede, replaced by a surge of determined energy. As I meticulously examined the portrait, Mark's dismissive words from the previous day echoed sharply in my memory. "Drop that portrait, it means nothing. It's just clutter." His voice had been unusually sharp, his demeanor agitated. At the time, I dismissed it as his usual impatience with things he deemed sentimental or financially insignificant. He was always the pragmatic one, driven by logic and a desire for efficiency. But now, after the dream, his urgency to discard it seemed less like practicality and more like desperation. It painted a new picture, one where his motivations were not just about clearing space, but about hiding something. Why would he be so insistent? What did he stand to gain or lose by its presence? The more I thought about his reaction, the more convinced I became that the portrait held a secret, a truth he wanted to bury. My mother's silent instruction felt like a direct counter to his veiled intentions, pulling back the curtain on a deception I hadn't even known existed. The air around the portrait felt thick with untold stories, a silent witness to a truth waiting to be uncovered. My initial examination yielded nothing concrete. I ran my hands over every inch of the frame, tapped on various sections, and peered into the crevices of the carvings, but found no obvious latches, no hidden buttons, no loose panels. Frustration began to creep in. Had I misinterpreted Mom's message? Was my longing for her presence coloring my perception, turning a simple dream into a quest for something that wasn't there? A wave of doubt washed over me, threatening to derail my resolve. But then, as I stepped back, my eyes caught a glint of light on the lower right corner, the exact spot Mom had subtly gestured towards in my dream. It wasn't a physical anomaly, but a memory, a flicker of a cherished moment. Mom, sitting in her favorite armchair, always facing the portrait, her fingers often idly tracing that very corner of the frame as she spoke, lost in thought. She had a habit of doing that, a comforting, repetitive motion. It wasn't a structural clue, but a personal one, a whisper from the past, reminding me that the portrait held deeper significance than mere aesthetics. That memory, Mom's almost unconscious habit of touching that specific corner, was the breakthrough I needed. It wasn't about a visible mechanism, but about her interaction with the object itself. I remembered her saying once, "Sometimes the answer isn't what you see, but what you feel, what you know in your heart." I returned to the portrait, this time not searching for a hinge or a button, but feeling for a subtle difference in texture, a slight give under pressure. My fingers, guided by instinct and the vivid memory, pressed firmly on the lower right corner, exactly where her hand would always rest. I pushed gently at first, then with a little more force, experimenting with different angles. The wood felt solid, unyielding. But then, as I applied pressure to a particular spot, nestled within a cluster of decorative leaves carved into the frame, there was a faint, almost imperceptible click. My breath hitched. It was so subtle, I almost missed it, attributing it to the old house settling. But it was distinct, unmistakably mechanical. My heart began to race, an adrenaline surge confirming that this was no mere coincidence. The subtle click was not followed by a dramatic opening, no secret door swinging wide. Instead, a small, narrow sliver of the frame, barely an inch wide, along the bottom edge, recessed inward, creating a tiny gap. It was so cleverly hidden, blending seamlessly with the ornate carvings, that it would have been impossible to find without the precise knowledge or the divine nudge from a dream. My fingers fumbled, trembling slightly as I tried to pry it open. There was no obvious handle, no pull tab. I carefully slid a thin letter opener into the newly formed crevice and gently leveraged it. With a soft groan of old wood, the entire bottom section of the frame, perhaps 6 inches long, popped out slightly, revealing a shallow cavity behind it. My eyes widened in disbelief and wonder. There, tucked carefully inside, folded multiple times and slightly yellowed with age, was an envelope. It was thin, unassuming, and had my mother's elegant handwriting on it, addressed to "My dearest daughter." A profound wave of emotion washed over me, a powerful confirmation that Mom's silent message was real, and that I was on the cusp of an incredible truth. My hands shook as I reached into the hidden compartment and retrieved the envelope. It felt fragile, almost sacred. The paper was thin, the edges softened by time, but my mother's handwriting, though slightly faded, was unmistakable. My name, Clara, was written across the front with the familiar flourish she used, a small heart often accompanying it. I carefully broke the aged wax seal, a small personal emblem she always used, and unfolded the letter. The first line was simple, yet poignant. "My dearest Clara, if you are reading this, then you have found what I hoped you would, and in good time." A lump formed in my throat, her voice echoing in my mind as if she were speaking directly to me. The letter continued, detailing a truth she felt compelled to reveal. A secret arrangement made years ago regarding the family's estate and a specific piece of land, the old vineyard, which Mark had recently been so keen to sell off. It wasn't about the portrait itself, but what the portrait guarded. The true will, not the one that had been officially presented, but a later amendment, made in secret, reflecting her true, final wishes. The letter's contents were a seismic shift, overturning everything I thought I knew about my mother's will and the family inheritance. It detailed how the original will, which primarily favored Mark due to his business acumen and her belief he'd manage it responsibly, had been amended just months before her passing. She had discovered an unscrupulous business deal Mark was contemplating, one that would have desecrated the old vineyard, a place sacred to our family history, for quick profit. Distraught, but wanting to avoid direct confrontation that would fracture the family, she had secretly drafted an codicil, ensuring the vineyard would be preserved, bequeathed directly to me, with the stipulation that it remain untouched by development. She chose me because she knew I understood its spiritual and historical value, not just its monetary worth. She wrote, "I couldn't bear to see our legacy become a casualty of ambition. This land holds the whispers of our ancestors, and you, my daughter, have always listened. My brother, Mark, had deliberately hidden this codicil, presenting only the earlier will, knowing full well it contradicted her final, deeply held wishes. The betrayal was staggering. A profound sense of betrayal, mixed with an overwhelming wave of grief, washed over me. Not just for the deception, but for the quiet suffering my mother must have endured, making such a weighty decision in secret, trying to protect her family's legacy without causing direct conflict. Her letter spoke of her hope that one day the truth would emerge, not through accusations, but through a sign, a feeling, a deep-seated connection. And she had provided that sign directly through my dream. The depth of Mark's manipulation was shocking. He hadn't just withheld information. He had actively suppressed her last wishes, driven by what I now understood was a short-sighted pursuit of profit. His dismissal of the portrait, his insistence that it was meaningless, was a direct reflection of his attempt to erase any trace of her true intent. It wasn't about the money for me. It was about honoring Mom's memory and preserving a piece of our heritage that held far more value than any sum of money could represent. The weight of this truth settled on my shoulders, a heavy yet righteous burden. The immediate emotional storm gave way to a cold, clear resolve. I held the letter, my mother's truth, a tangible piece of her wisdom and foresight. I knew I couldn't let Mark's deception stand. This wasn't just about inheritance. It was about integrity, about respect for our mother's memory and her true values. The codicil was legally binding, clearly written, and witnessed by her longtime solicitor, Mr. Henderson, whose name and contact details were meticulously noted in the letter. My next step was clear: confrontation. But how to approach Mark? His initial reaction would undoubtedly be denial, anger, perhaps even an attempt to discredit the letter. I needed to be calm, unwavering, and present the evidence with irrefutable clarity. I reread Mom's letter, drawing strength from her words, from her hope that her children would ultimately find their way back to understanding and love. Even after such a revelation, she believed in the power of truth to heal, not just wound. This was not about winning an argument, but about revealing a deeper truth for the well-being of our family. I scheduled a meeting with Mark for the following day, requesting he come to my home for an important family discussion. I needed to confront him on neutral ground, yet on my terms, in the very living room where the portrait hung, a silent witness to our mother's enduring presence. When he arrived, his demeanor was guarded, a mix of curiosity and impatience. He probably expected a complaint about something trivial. I offered him tea, trying to maintain a calm facade, though my heart pounded in my chest. We made small talk for a few minutes, the tension in the room palpable, before I finally looked him squarely in the eye. "Mark," I began, my voice steadier than I expected, "I need to talk to you about Mom's final wishes, specifically concerning the vineyard." His face immediately stiffened. "What about it, Clara? It's settled. The will is clear. I'm moving forward with the sale." His tone was defensive, confirming my suspicions. I took a deep breath, preparing to lay bare the truth. "Not entirely settled, Mark," I countered softly, but with unwavering resolve. "You see, Mom made a different arrangement, one she wanted me to discover when the time was right." I walked over to the portrait, my gaze meeting his, which now held a flicker of apprehension. He watched, almost mesmerized, as I reached for the hidden panel in the frame, pressed the familiar spot, and with a soft click, pulled out the letter. His eyes widened, a mixture of shock and dawning horror contorting his features. He knew. He clearly recognized the truth before I even spoke another word. "This," I said, holding up the yellowed envelope, "is a codicil to Mom's will. Her true final wishes, written in her own hand." He stammered, his face paling. "What? What is that? Some old note? Clara, you're being sentimental again, reading too much into things." He tried to dismiss it, to wave it away with his hand, but the conviction in my eyes and the undeniable reality of the letter itself stopped him cold. He was cornered, his facade crumbling. His initial dismissal quickly morphed into outright denial, then a furious outburst. "This is absurd, Clara. A forgery. Some delusion you cooked up from an old dream," he accused, his voice rising, trying to regain control of a situation that was clearly spiraling out of his grasp. But I remained calm. simply opening the letter and beginning to read, not raising my voice, letting Mom's words speak for themselves. I read the specific details of the codicil, the terms regarding the vineyard, and most importantly, the clear reference to Mr. Henderson, her longtime solicitor, as the witness. Details that only Mom and Mr. Henderson would know, and now, me. The mention of Mr. Henderson's involvement, a man of impeccable reputation whom Mark also knew well, was the final blow. His bluster deflated, the anger drained from his face, replaced by a hollow defeat. He slumped into the armchair, his shoulders slumping, all resistance gone. The truth, in Mom's own hand, was undeniable, irrefutable. Silence hung heavy in the room, broken only by my steady voice as I finished reading. The silence that followed my reading was deafening, thick with unspoken guilt and shattered trust. Mark stared at the floor, his usual assertive demeanor completely gone. The anger had vanished, replaced by a profound shame. Finally, he looked up, his eyes bloodshot, and let out a heavy sigh that seemed to carry the weight of years. I'm sorry, Clara," he whispered, his voice hoarse, barely audible. "I was afraid of losing everything, of not being as successful as Mom expected. The vineyard was crumbling, and I saw a way out, a chance to secure my future. I convinced myself she wouldn't have wanted it to be a burden." He confessed, the words tumbling out, a painful torrent of regret and misguided ambition. He admitted to finding the codicil after her passing, and in a moment of panic and greed, deciding to conceal it, hoping it would never be discovered. It wasn't purely malicious, but a desperate act born of fear and a distorted sense of responsibility. His confession, though painful to hear, brought a strange sense of relief. The truth finally laid bare between us. The resolution that followed wasn't dramatic or Hollywood-esque, no grand reconciliation overnight. It was honest, difficult, and gradual. Mark immediately contacted Mr. Henderson to confirm the codicil's validity, and within days, the legal steps were initiated to formally recognize Mom's true final wishes. The vineyard, our ancestral land, was secured, preserved, and entrusted to my care. But more importantly, the truth, while painful, began the arduous process of healing our family. There were no immediate hugs or declarations of renewed brotherhood. The betrayal had left a wound that would take time to mend. Yet, there was an understanding, a new foundation built on honesty. Mark, humbled and remorseful, began to engage with the family not as a manipulator, but as a brother trying to atone. The portrait, once a point of contention, now hung as a beacon, a constant reminder of Mom's enduring wisdom and her unwavering faith in truth. Its value was now immeasurable, not for any monetary worth, but as the silent guardian of our family's true legacy. As the dust settled and the legal formalities were completed, I often found myself standing before the portrait, reflecting on the incredible journey that had unfolded. The way the truth had come to light felt nothing short of miraculous. A vivid dream, a mother's silent plea, a subtle gesture, a hidden compartment, and a forgotten letter. Each step, a thread in a tapestry woven by something far greater than coincidence. There was an undeniable sense of divine intervention, a profound comfort in knowing that Mom, even from beyond, was still guiding us, still speaking to us in ways we couldn't always comprehend. It reaffirmed a truth I had always suspected, but sometimes doubted, that love transcends physical boundaries, and guidance can come in the most unexpected forms. The experience deepened my faith, not just in a higher power, but in the unseen connections that bind us, the quiet whispers that cut through the noise of the world when we are truly ready to listen. It was a powerful lesson in trust, patience, and the profound wisdom that lies just beneath the surface of everyday life. My gratitude was immense, a quiet, pervasive feeling that settled deep within my soul. Gratitude for my mother's foresight, for her gentle strength, and for her enduring love that found a way to bridge the divide between worlds. Gratitude for the dream, for the unwavering conviction it instilled in me, pushing me to seek a truth that might otherwise have remained buried. And gratitude for the lesson itself, that sometimes the most profound messages are delivered in the most subtle ways, through feelings, through memories, through coincidences that are anything but random. This journey had taught me to listen more intently, to trust my intuition, and to never dismiss the quiet promptings of the heart. The portrait now hangs not just as a piece of art, but as a testament to revelation, a symbol of truth uncovered, and a reminder that even in silence, powerful stories are being told. My mother had not only saved a piece of our family heritage, but had also saved us from a deeper fracture, guiding us back to a path of honesty and understanding. The vineyard, now legally mine, became more than just land. It was a living testament to Mom's spirit. I began the process of restoring it, not for profit, but to honor her wishes, turning it into a place of beauty and reflection, a community space where her memory and values could live on. Mark, in a surprising turn, offered to help, not as a business partner, but as a brother seeking redemption. He spent weekends working alongside me, silently, thoughtfully, finding solace in the soil and the shared purpose. Our conversations were often sparse but meaningful, built on a new foundation of respect. He was beginning to see the true value of things beyond mere financial gain, understanding at last the sacredness Mom spoke of. This process of rebuilding the vineyard became a metaphor for rebuilding our relationship, a slow, painstaking, but ultimately rewarding journey. It was a tangible manifestation of Mom's influence, her silent message blossoming into a new reality for our family. The community, too, felt the impact. Word spread of the vineyard's preservation, not as a commercial venture, but as a site for local gatherings, educational workshops on sustainable farming, and a peaceful retreat for reflection. People who had known my mother, and even those who hadn't, found inspiration in the story of how a dream, a forgotten